Hello, welcome to Sephra's World. My name is Sephra, and this is my world. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Twilight Zone reboot. Now, I was around back in the 80s when they did the reboot then, and at the time they also rebooted Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and they also had a show, Tales from the Dark Side. So those three, it was like a triple play of horror anthologies, and it was really exciting, and it was a good time to be around and for anthology TV. So I'm excited to see Twilight Zone being brought back yet again. Twilight Zone, for those who don't know, was originally back in the 50s or 60s. I should have looked it up before I started my recording, but I didn't. And then we had a revamping. Now, a lot of us remember stories from the original Twilight Zone, and several people around my age, 50s and 40s, and of course older than 50s, definitely remember Twilight Zone episodes and stuff. So I think what's happening with this new renaissance of the Twilight Zone series is they are revisiting some of the original stories, and this is both good and not so good. I haven't seen all of the new Twilight Zone stories yet, so I want to make that clear. That the very first episode they aired, I missed the first story, but then because it was a two-part, they did two stories on the premiere, so I missed the first story, but I saw pretty much most of the second story. I missed the first few minutes of the story of the airplane, and then I have seen a couple of the other stories since. But what prompted me to hop on the YouTube was last night's story. Last night's story was about meteors coming to Earth, and it did remind me, again, it had the echoes of whatever the original story was based on. And the problem think I'm having with some of these Twilight Zone stories so far, but like I said, I haven't seen them all, so I may be speaking stupidness, is that they seem to be kind of going down a road of social justice warrior type of ideas or politically correct kind of things, and it's kind of bugging me. Now, I don't mean in terms of casting. They're doing some great casting. One of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes that I often refer to in real life is the kid who sends people who disagree with him to the cornfield, sort of like a psychopath in the making. And so they did revisit that concept a couple weeks ago, last week I think actually, where they had a boy running for president, and so it was the same idea, only he didn't send them to the cornfield, but it was a modern take on that, and I liked it in some ways, but then in other ways I didn't, because I really liked the original cornfield story and how creepy that was, just how it was. But I did like the touches of, our modern, well, the United States modern political system. I'm not in the States, so, I'm in Canada, so you guys in the States do what you want. So it was interesting to see that. I guess they're going with the idea that if someone like Donald Trump can be president with no political history, then why can't a kid be president with no political history, and his parents would be his mouthpieces and so on. And we all know that would never actually happen. But it was an interesting concept to explore, and I liked a lot of the ideas about it, and then some of it, not so much. Anyways, I guess I should have started this with saying there's lots of spoilers in this video. So last night we had the meteors, and I think the thing that bugged me, even though I'm a woman, is that it was kind of a man-bashing episode, and I don't know. When the meteors first came down, I was hoping it would be more like Creep Show, when Stephen King played Geordie, and he's like, "Oh, meteor shit," and he turns into the Moss Man or whatever. Spoiler, if you haven't seen Creep Show, you've only had 30 years to see it. I was hoping they were going to go that kind of route, even though I know Creepshow isn't a Twilight Zone, but, that was a very moving and disturbing story. It was a very short story in the Creepshow days, and I guess because it's a Stephen King story, it had, the right kind of pathos and information and so on. But last night, um, they had the meteors just basically, spoilers, turn men into assholes. And the thing is, we find out at the end is that it was just men turning themselves into assholes. They just suddenly decide to fight because they had touched a meteor, and we're going down the garden path of thinking, okay, the meteors are affecting testosterone or men doing things, and then we see a couple of gay guys, and the one gay guy goes full rage asshole, but the other gay guy, he only goes like turns into the Hulk for a few minutes to save his sister and his mom, and then goes normal again. And it's like, well, because I chose to control it. Now that I don't know, it fell apart for me. I felt like what I'm finding with I think almost every episode that I've actually seen is that I feel like there's a couple of scenes missing that we didn't see or maybe got cut out, and maybe when they were editing they didn't realize that they maybe should have kept that in, or maybe it's not there at all. But I felt like we needed some kind of pivotal moment to kind of understand that before they just tell us at the end, because men are not all men are jerks. Like the whole town was going crazy because they all were pretending. I don't know. It didn't work for me at all that they had the choice whether to go bad or not, or go rogue or whatever with the meteor stuff. Like people, like these guys were just like ripping people apart, like fighting, and it was difficult. When the story first started, and the girl was making out with the guy, and then she doesn't want to go any further, and then he gets angry. Um, that's a bit of a trigger, and that's fine. It's fine. It's a horror show. It's a science fiction show. We're supposed to get triggered. But then, like, there's a lot of male loudness and fighting, and since I've been in some abusive relationships, it was frightening for me, and I almost turned it off. But then I watched it 'cause it's like, hey, I'm a horror writer, it's a horror story, like, come on. You'll get your act together, there'll be an explanation. But the explanation that men are just assholes and will be evil if they want, didn't help me with my own stuff, and I don't think it helps most men. I know, we do see a lot of violence and stuff, but women are just as big of assholes as men. I know this. I see it with my own eyes every day that women are evil too, and so they're not like the good race that choose not to fight with the meteor. There would be women right in there ripping each other up too. So I don't know if there's like a testosterone call with the meteor. Because how they left it, or at least how I understood how they left it, was just that men can choose to be good or bad, and every single man in this town, except the gay boy, decided to be evil and to murder. Like, not even just punching each other out, but they're murdering each other. Like, they're ripping each other's heads off and pulling out each other's brains, and it was just weird. So yeah, so I have mixed feelings about that episode because obviously it's made me think and enough to put this video out. So, and we all know the best stories do make people think and discuss things. So maybe this is doing its job where we're discussing, like, are men naturally prone to fight, or beat each other up, or men prone to fight and women are prone to flight? I'm not sure that's true, but it's a story, and the story can do whatever it wants, just like I always say about the Star Wars trilogy, the new ones, where I'm horribly disappointed with how I wanted the stories to go, but I'm not doing the stories. They're doing the stories. They're the ones getting paid to do the stories, and they can do whatever the hell they want. They don't need my input. So, but I do like the fact that Twilight Zone is being revamped. I actually know a few people who are lucky enough to be working on the scripts, fellow horror writers, and though I don't see their names on the screens because I know how Hollywood works, you have the stable of writers and stuff. So I'm thrilled that there are opportunities for the new generations. I hope they do go with some more original stories, like super original, because I'm finding with the shadows of stories, like with the airplane story, with the cornfield story, and with last night's story, I spent most of the episode thinking back to the stories those stories are based on. And then, of course, last night I was also thinking about the Creep Show Meteor story that had nothing to do with the Twilight Zone story, but it just made me remember all that. Um, so it's interesting to see modern takes on, ideas that are 40 or 50 years old. But I would also like to see some brand new, vibrant stories because there are so many talented people working in horror and science fiction right now. I'd love to write a story for it too. I don't know where to submit, but I'd love to work on the new Twilight Zone for sure. And I have to just give shout out to Jordan Peele. Like, thank you so much for coming by the horror field and perking it up. I think it's fantastic. I was a Jordan Peele fan before. And he got into the horror field, and when I saw Get Out, I was very, very impressed. I saw Get Out before all the hype, so I went into it not knowing at all what to expect or that this is the best thing ever or whatever. So I feel bad for people that went to see it after the hype because movies never live up to the hype. It's like I finally saw Blair Witch Project, 10 or 20 years after it came out, and I didn't think I would like it, which is why I never saw it when it came out, and I didn't. I just thought it was dumb, and yet for so many of my friends, it's like the best movie they ever saw, and for most of them, it was because they saw it before the hype. Just like I love Tropic Thunder. It's one of my favorite. It is my favorite comedy movie, pretty much, and I saw it at a screening before it went public. My son worked for YTV at the time, and we had passes to go see a preview screening of it. And we didn't know what it was. We had no idea what it was. I didn't even. I thought it was like Apocalypse Now or something, and then I started realizing it's supposed to be funny, and then like it just killed me. I was laughing so hard, and so so it shows. So movies can and shows like Twilight Zone can suffer from too much hype. So just go into these stories open heart, open mind. But I do hope that we can get off the politically correct social justice wagon for a while and just tell some really good stories that aren't quite so harsh to either sex. Or, again, I go back to, I really felt like it was a man bashing episode last night. And even though I'm not a man, I just, I don't take delight in that at all. But I did like the episode, and I actually liked what's her face from American Horror Story. I usually don't like her, and I'm not sure it's just because I don't like the characters she plays, much like Sarah Paulson. I never liked the characters she plays, so I always say I don't like her. But in fact, I probably would like both of these women very much in real life. It's just they always play these types of characters that are. It might have been because I grew up as a chubby, dark-haired girl, and there's skinny blonde people. I don't it might just be echoes of my own crap as a childhood. Who knows? But anyway, she did a very good job being, her metamorphosis from being just regular person on a date to like something's not right to holy crap, there's like a real horror show happening in town now. She did an amazing job, and she probably should get some kind of award for the work she did in that show last night because she very much impressed me, and she usually doesn't. So there you have it. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Have a great day.